Do you know what your business is worth? That's the first question. And I vividly remember waking up like 3 or 4 in the morning and just the number, 100,000.
What is the first step?
So the first thing needs to be
we often hear this phrase, jack of all trades and masters of none. But what if I told you that all founders need to know a little bit of something to make wise financial decisions? But they also know when to bring in mastery. Today, I'm sitting with the managing director of Finovate, Francois O'Kennedy, and he's built his business upon helping others gain financial clarity, confidence, and control. This won't be another conversation of quick wins or hacks. It's going to be about how businesses are actually built, the systems, the compliance, the frameworks that no one sees, all of those decisions that no one really sees behind the scenes. Because what we want to know is how can we grow sustainable businesses? So before we unpack everything Finovate and before we unpack the frameworks and the numbers, Francois, it is such a pleasure to sit down with you again. And I want to know, do you maybe have a bit of insight that you can talk to us about your journey as to how you started? You were obviously a jack of all trades and you were very talented in a few different things and you had lots of different interests and hobbies and passions. So before we get into the serious numbers, can you walk us through your journey and how you chose accounting and then how you merged over into the world of business and entrepreneurship?
perfect. Yeah, thanks, Ross. So I'll just dive in. I think the first thing I wanted to become was when I was 3 or 4 years old. I loved the smile on the faces when we had to take out our dustbin and the guys who actually jumped off the lorry and just like picked it up. They had like this smile. So for my 3rd birthday, I actually had this like rubbish, like a bin or the actual truck that takes away the rubbish. So in some ways, that was where it started. But these guys had a smile on their face. And I still recall one of our colleagues laughing at me saying that that's what I wanted to do.
Wow.
So it started quite far away from accounting. But I still remember my mom and my dad, we gave them apples. And all of a sudden, they were just so happy. And as a 3-year-old, all I saw is, these are happy people. So that's where it started. Obviously, things changed. When I was about 7, I wanted to be a professional rugby player, probably like every grade 1 boy. And then by the time I was 9, I wanted to be a professional tennis player. So I really did the sport thing. I was full on, didn't really care about academics that much, even though my mom is a maths teacher and she obviously drilled me and tried to get me into a lot of the academical side. My father as well, he's got a doctorate in the Old Testament and he's really academic, but I just wanted to play sport. I wanted to play, have fun, but at the same time, there was this competitive side. There was also the side of like understanding what it takes. It's not just this leap and you can just go from X to Y and it's these 3 easy hacks to get somewhere. I think there was a lot of grit that sport teach me in my journey. High school, I still recall a few sessions. I wanted to become an actuary. I wanted to do math because that's like what my mom did. And then I realized, but actually, hang on, I love business. And had some conversations with chartered accountants, and I could see that they actually loved what they did. It was more than just numbers. They were building businesses, and something there resonated with what I wanted to do. Fast track, university, studied accounting, obviously. We were a group of friends, but always had something on the side. Just like loved leadership, loved participating in community, in church, in our residence. And I actually think those things taught me so many more lessons than an actual academical side. Because now you would know, but you cannot just be academically inclined. You're actually running a team. There's a lot of leadership things that you don't get taught in university. So I was lucky to be exposed to sport, to leadership roles, to church, to community, to serving, and the underlining like golden thread of that is like this family that really imparted like we're here to love and to serve others. So I think I've been blessed and fortunate to have this kind of a a story behind it, where it is today. But yeah, today I'm really passionate about South Africa. I'm passionate about businesses, and really businesses that scale. So we're not talking about 10%, 20% growth. We're talking about 10x, 100x, and what is actually going to change the future, and how can we ignite that potential that's within our individuals, within our country, but also within other nations. There's a lot more than just what the surface has to offer. So that's where we are today.
That's incredible. It sounds like there were lots of moments that shaped who you are. And it was really, really good that you had all of these experiences, because it actually paid into
random experiences.
Super random, yeah.
Random, but somehow there's like a golden thread.
Yeah. Okay. And so at the moment you're managing a team of around 50 people. Yes. I want to know about your leadership approach, because obviously you need to be someone that casts vision. You need to be a good manager of people, and you need to understand behavior in the workplace. So just tell us a little bit about your leadership style and approach, after explaining now very, very beautifully where your heart is and where your passions lie.
Yes. So I think the starting point is for us as a company. I'm not the founder. There was a vision that we believe God already gave to us as a company. And that is, it's based on the word stewardship, being a good custodian of what we've been entrusted with. So the first thing needs to be, and this is what I believe, is I first need to be not necessarily the leader, but be obedient and also a follower of God in our company that we believe actually gave us this word. So there is a sense of me first having to be a follower in order to lead the team. So that's just a fundamental principle that I believe in. Wow. Second, it is that there is a call to obedience. Above all else, if I have to be obedient to what I believe the Lord is telling me, and this could be starting something new. It might not make sense in the moment, and it might not always make sense to some of our board members, but there has to be some sort of a faith and a trust when you build something. And I think that also on a probably a personality side, I am very pioneering. Yeah. I do want to build, I want to create, and I believe we're called to create, to co-create with our creator. And so there's lots of these ingredients that I'll bring into our leadership team. But there is a great book called Multipliers, and in that book, there is a leadership style of actually helping, understanding how can we ignite the potential of our people, seeing their true potential and giving them an opportunity to grow and to run with it. So we call that value unlocked. Now, value unlocked can be seen for clients. When we work with businesses, how can we unlock their value? But you can have an internal view of that as well. Say, how can we sit and think and actually look at each individual within our business, say, how can we ignite their potential? How can we unlock their value? And what can I do? What stones can I take out or take away that can help you to thrive? Ross, for instance. And that question you can ask for every single person in your team. And you can encourage your leaders to ask and to have that mindset with the teams and the people that they're responsible for. All over, I believe this is good stewardship. We're in a position, director, manager, team lead, or just an employee, and you've been entrusted with something. Yeah. And what are you going to do with that?
I love that. I want to quickly highlight the two things that you said. You mentioned servanthood, and you used the word ignite.
Yes.
And I love that approach. I think that's an incredible approach. And it actually also shows, if anyone wants to know about Finovate and what's on your website, you have a very clear mission. And that mission is to create 100,000 jobs in South Africa. I don't know by when you have that goal, but what could have inspired?
I need to tell you the story behind it.
Yeah, what inspired such an ambitious vision?
Yes, so that there's a few stories and a few dreams, but I am a very passionate person, and when passion meets purpose, and you are also equipped to actually do something in that, then there's magic. And so within the 100,000, that was a dream I received. I think it was about in 2021, and I vividly remember waking up like 3 or 4 in the morning, and just the number 100,000. I need to go and create, or there's something about 100,000 and creating jobs in South Africa, specifically for white collar. But to elevate, and then I did some research and looked into how many South Africans are actually leaving the country for greener pastures elsewhere? It's not that they don't love South Africa. They love South Africa. They just don't have the opportunities to live here and to stay here. But these are people with amazing degrees, amazing platforms, but without the ability to go and actually sow that into our local communities.
Yeah.
And so that was the start of that, and wrestled with it. Pretty much a year later, we realized that actually we do have some skills, and we can create infrastructure that can allow South Africans to live locally, to import locally, to serve locally, to build community locally, but to earn globally. And this idea, I think, is a big theme that you'll see right across our business. Of understanding that we don't have to have a poverty mentality.
No.
As a business, and our clients don't have to have a poverty mentality. We've got incredible people, incredible grit, incredible problem-solving abilities, and we need to take that to the world. We shouldn't hold back on that. But there isn't this road, this bridge necessarily for businesses to take that cross-border. It becomes so expensive. Yes, you can go through the big four, but for the SME, for the private-owned, the founder-led business, these rails is not there. So there's a part of what we are doing is actually creating the infrastructure for companies to move abroad. And on that same bridge, international companies can do business in South Africa. So you'll see the concept of a bridge on a website, and there's a two-way stream.
Wow.
Us being able to export our services and bring something to the world, but also the ability to actually help international companies to build teams in South Africa.
It's incredible. It's incredible to hear that. It's incredible to see that. It sounds like something that I stumbled across when taking one of your diagnostics tests, and we'll get into that in a bit. But there's this term that you guys use, a big, hairy, audacious goal.
Yes.
Would you describe that, the 100,000 jobs, as your big, hairy, audacious goal? And how far are you in actually achieving that?
Yes. So in some ways, we've split it out because the 100,000 is a specific dream I received personally.
Okay.
That is bigger than necessarily Finovate or another company that I'm involved in. So it's something that I resonate with on a personal, deep level. But I can see how that play out within our business. So how does that play out in our business? If we take the next 10 years, for instance, and we can assist, we're already working with a few 100 companies, probably 70 to 100 of them would be in this ICP, an ideal customer persona of wanting to 10x or wanting to 5x within the next 3 to 5 years. If we can take 1,000 companies and we can 10x them from a base of 20 million rand in turnover, and these are not even South African companies only. This is UK companies, these are US companies, maybe other jurisdictions in the future. We can assist them to 10x. The job creation that creates is more than 100,000 jobs. On average, if you take the existing data. Now, I don't know what AI will do with that. Maybe we'll need to 20x or 30x them in order to have that amount of employees. But it's not necessarily about the number as a specific number that we need to chase. It's about being obedient. So we believe that we would like to see 1,000 companies 10x in value in the way that they think in a sustainable manner in the next 10 years.
It's extraordinary. It's actually unheard of. It's very impressive for me to hear. I'm going to ask one more slightly more personal question, because I'm loving hearing a bit more about what's in your mind and what's in your heart. So this is going to be the last one before we dive into the 5C framework. That is also very close to your heart, but it's a little bit more complex in understanding that they're very measurable and that these are things that business need to desire and attain to.
Yes.
But you describe yourself as someone that values long-term growth and integrity above short-term results.
Yes.
So how do I see that play out in your actual day-to-day life, at work, in your business? What does that actually look like?
So practically, as an example, what this is and somebody that's really good at this is Jeff Bezos. So there's a funny story of him acquiring, I can't recall now the exact amount that he paid, but this is like $50 million, $100 million of building a clock in a mountain that will last for 10,000 years. 10,000 years. I think it ticks once a year.
Yeah.
And the whole point of it is literally to have people think long term. There's no, he wants to have something that stays there for 10,000 years in a mountain that just helps people to think long term, not just the now. And you would know, but TikTok, Instagram, Shorts, it's all hacks and it's short-term gains, and there isn't necessarily a strong base and this grit that builds up through doing little things better and better, day after day, hour after hour, minute after minute, and that leads to long-term results. But you need to have a mindset of not pursuing the immediate.
Yeah.
There's an instant gratification kind of theme. The flip side of that is today, if you are a long-term thinker, the compound effect of your investment in yourself, in your leadership abilities, in your learning, serving, loving others, that has a massive compound effect. It will just outrun others, not necessarily monetary. It's not about material things, but in terms of just the depthness of you as a person, and the richness.
Yeah.
And it's a different richness. So it's that component, but it's also, I think there's an eternal side to this, which from a Christian biblical view, I don't see myself as just earth, and that is what life's about. So there's also a custodian stewardship component of we're here for a short time.
Yeah.
So thinking eternal mindset, it helps you to kind of lose the shackles and the chains of what if it doesn't go right?
Yeah.
Is that going to determine my identity? Is that going to lead to doubt? Am I not a good person because I cannot close this deal or that? So there's a long tangent that we can go into, which we don't have to today, but there is something there in terms of your identity and where does your identity sit, your purpose, your calling, which is also the bedrock of what we are building and what I think it's about.
I imagine that to be so freeing. And I think that outlook that you have is something that you obviously want to impart on other people, because everyone, like you said, is thinking about short-term gain. And what you're talking about is longevity.
Yes.
But you can actually only enter the realm of longevity and thinking about some of these eternal or some of these long-term goals when you are at peace with your purpose, at peace with your identity, and at peace with what you believe your mission is.
And in a sense also free in terms of not pursuing the end goal necessarily, but understanding that it's about the journey. If you are content with the journey and you believe this is where I should be, then that creates a lot of freedom for you to be able to create and to do things without the shackles and the burden of what if I don't achieve what I set out to do. And so these things, I think it's really important, but it starts with identity.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's about the journey, and a lot of people aren't thinking about the journey. And I want to sort of quickly break away into what we're here to talk about, which is going to be the framework.
Yes.
So everything that you've just discussed is part of your internal neurology. It's part of what you believe. It's part of your internal systems.
Yes.
But you guys have actually built a tool, an actual diagnostic that people and businesses and founders can use.
Yes.
And it's the 5 C's.
Yes.
So I would love if you could maybe unpack what the 5 C's are, and just very, very basically, fundamentally, just give us a short description as to what each of them are.
Yes.
And that would be great.
Yeah. So the 5 C's, obviously my background is finance, and we did with our strategy coach, which we've had now for 3-4 years. And it was even before that, a lot of the roles that I did with clients is taking on that, call it the fractional CFO role for clients, and understanding that there are certain fundamental things that is not in place because of this short-term thinking and historic view that clients and even just the business community have in general on where their business is and where it needs to go. It's a good analogy is like if you're a pilot, the data on where the flight path was, how relevant is that for where you need to fly to? It's not very relevant.
No.
It's great to know that you're 10 meters or 20 meters or 1,000 meters above ground, but you need to actually understand where are you heading.
Yes, the trajectory.
There's a forecasting, there's a trajectory side. So most businesses, their finance team is a historic compliance orientated function. it doesn't help them to forecast. It doesn't help them to see into the future. It doesn't help them to dream. And it cannot match where they're actually heading towards, maybe their big, hairy, audacious goal, into like fundamental financially metrics like unit economics. How many quantities of different products you need to sell in 10 years' time in order to reach that figure that you've got? And which markets are you going to tap into? And these things aren't necessarily built back into frameworks, into financial models. People are really bad at forecasting and understanding. And today we built tools that allow businesses on the finance leg of the business. If you look at it, because it's got 3 legs, this little table, but 4 legs of a business. Finance would be one, operations would be one, customer would be one, and then people. That's like a standard view that you've got. You can split it up into different components, different functions. But the finance leg has been something that has been a grudge purchase. And we've transformed that with this diagnostic and the 5C framework into something that we believe can unlock shareholder and stakeholder value. So I'll get you into the 5 C's in that. But the purpose of it is to help founders, to help business owners to unlock the value that sits within their business, but it's not being articulated and it's actually not shown on a financial model.
Yeah.
They don't know the valuation they don't know what it's worth, and they don't know what drives or the valuation. They don't know what trigger points and things to change and to tweak that can unlock more value in the future.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm a founder, but I'm also starting basically from zero. And I tried to do that 5C diagnostic test, and I was going through every single question, and we can go a bit into some of the detailed questions that you have, but I was trying to figure out how did you guys, was there a moment when you as a business owner and as someone that was like, it clicked to you, this is what businesses are missing. This is what founders are not thinking about. Because I'm looking at these 20 questions.
Like
I think
an
it was
artist
20.
that just goes and it's like,
there was just one
the
beautiful picture there that I could see, and it's really philanthropic and it's generous and it's great. But all of these questions were so specific and so measurable.
Yes.
I found it fascinating how you framed those questions and how you knew to ask those questions. And it's a very helpful tool, I can imagine.
Yes.
But was there a moment where you were like, this is what we need to do? This is how we're going to help businesses unlock and founders unlock what they need to do? It's fascinating to me.
So what we did is, we effectively, over the last 10 years, we've had so many engagements with clients, and there are certain trends and things that you can pick up in your own data sets and in your own experience. So I started probably 4 years ago to start articulating that and quantifying that. And what I see work at clients, we started to implement in-house. What I see work, what doesn't work, that obviously we try and not do and not implement. And we've also had many failures in our own journey of businesses that we started. But then there was a pattern that started to come. And the other thing is, in some ways, it has to be easy to understand.
Yeah.
So it was easy to use the C's, the 5 C's, and we'll get into that, as a way of understanding you need to go deep in some areas, but you also need coverage. You cannot just focus on one component. Then the rest will fall flat. So what ended up happening is there was a massive lack in the commercial side of businesses. So that's the first C, commercial. It starts with the commercial side. Do you have a big, hairy, audacious goal? First question. Do you have a financial model that articulates how you're going to get there, that you can take back to where you are today? Have you split it out into business units, like the unit economics, resource plans? There's a lot of depth in that, but you need to ask those questions. And then you start understanding there's patterns on all the clients that we onboard. And they don't have these things in place. They've got accountants, they've got in-house teams, but they still don't have the things in place that can help them as a pilot navigate the uncertainty of the future. And so these things started.
But why do you think that is? Why do you think businesses and founders and people that are, let's say, just starting or even doing well and are maybe successful and have a lot of potential, why are these systems just not in place? And how did you guys figure it out?
So I've got a hypothesis on this, but I mean, it might not be true. So what I believe is there's a lot of founders that are absolutely brilliant with their clients. They understand their market, they understand their product, but they didn't go and study accounting for 7 years. Like, that's the reality. And there's the top 40 companies, or there was a stat that about 50% of the CEOs of the biggest companies in South Africa, JSE top 40, is run by chartered accountants. Now, why would that be? Why wouldn't you want to get the guy who's best at sales or operations? But there's something about finance that cash flow plays a intrinsic role in every part of your business. And if you don't understand it, it's quite expensive to go and do an MBA. It's time consuming. And a lot of these businesses, they just don't have that thinking in their team. And we don't believe they need it full time, but they need some of it.
They need someone. So I'm looking now at the Joe public report, right?
Yes.
Which is essentially a reflection of the average scores of more than about, let's say, 50 leads.
Yeah, it'll be more than 50 now, but yes.
And the results are fascinating. So we've got our averages. So there's like an average current revenue of 20 million and then an average 3-year ambition of 100 million.
And that's actually true. So we tested 50 to 60 clients that we got data on. And it might be a little bit less because we had to take out some of them. Yeah. Then that was the average.
Yeah.
20 million today, that was the average turnover. 20 million, and then, like you said, they wanted to grow to 100 million within 3 years. That's exponential growth. Yeah.
And you've got this. There's an overall 5C score of 45%.
Yes.
And then there's
which is shocking. In South Africa you might pass depending on how the government
depending on if it's all right or not. Yeah.
But 45%. You're not going to get into varsity with 45%.
Not this time.
It'll be difficult to 5x your business with a 45% score.
Yeah.
And I'll share what it is actually about that you can understand why. But yes.
Because then also
the average score is 45%.
Yes, average score is 45%. And then there's a benchmark for scale readiness at 80%.
Yes. That's our own internal score. And this is something that we believe these companies, if they're serious about the growth and the ambition, at least get to 80%.
So you guys have established that to be the benchmark.
Yes.
So I'm going to go through the average scores per C.
Yes.
And then that'll also help us understand what every single thing stands for.
I'll help you to maybe just articulate what the different C's are. But yes.
So we've got compliance, which is at 63%, which is the highest one.
It's the highest one.
Yeah. So founders and businesses are generally okay with covering those bases.
Yes. And I think that score, depending on the statistic, I think it should actually be higher. We ask 1 or 2 questions there that might be, people would say maybe, but in general, people are compliant. These type of businesses, they've got their own structure. They do their financials. They do their tax returns. They do their pay-as-you-earn. They've got payroll. In general, they're compliant.
Yeah.
And that's what the traditional accountants and in-house team needs to do based on their job description.
The next one is cash. Yes. Which is at 44%. And you guys say there's a basic awareness, but there's weak forecasting and conversion. Just walk me through what you mean there in simple terms.
Yes. So the cash, so once again, this is the other C or one of the C's.
Yeah.
And what we've seen time and time again, and this was a frustration from founders, they actually know their cash flow in some ways, their historic and their actual bank balance better than their income statement. And they get frustrated with working with their accountants and seeing that, but why on earth I'm supposedly making money on a profit and loss, but I don't have cash in the bank, or I cannot pull a salary. There's a disconnect. So you have to have 2 different views. You have to understand the commercial side, what gets reported on an income statement, what gets reported on a balance sheet, and you need to understand how does that translate into real cash, real money. Otherwise, it's vanity. There is that saying. Revenue, vanity. Profit, sanity. Cash flow, reality. And cash, there's mechanisms and things that you can put in place and forecasting that help you to actually reduce the stress and burden of a founder. You would know it.
Yeah.
Of not knowing when the cash will flow in. And a lot of that could actually be, but the way you've structured your pricing, you could change that. Why don't you let the customers pay more upfront? What about understanding of when you need an investor or maybe some facility? But these questions, you can never get to them if you don't have a clear view and a workflow of how does your business model convert revenue into cash.
Wow. It's amazing. It's so specific and so really, really cool for me. The next one is commercial. So there's a commercial component, which is also at 44%.
Yes.
But you reckon it's a major blind spot.
It's a major blind spot, yes. Like I said,
Why?
you're flying a plane, and commercial, everyone looks at their historics, they look at their financials, they look at their management accounts.
Yeah.
A management account meeting, looking at your actuals, maybe against your budget. You're just looking historically. But people aren't necessarily forecasting.
I hear you.
And it's really difficult to build a good financial model. Now, today, you can do it a lot easier with AI, and the use of AI is really great on this. But you still need to have the fundamentals in place. It's like somebody that's good, that really understands financial models, you give them AI, and you can do it a lot quicker. And you can get results, and you can get scenarios and sensitivity that is actually going to help you to drive and to make decisions. Time and time again, I ask our clients, like, what decisions did you guys make off the management account meeting that you had with your accountant?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, it did not lead to decisions. So then it's like, but what's the purpose of it? If it cannot change your direction, then there's something missing. So these financial models is missing, but it's not a theoretical, I'm going to grow at 10% per year. It's understanding the bolts and nuts of the business and breaking it down into its operations, into its people, into unit economics. And it's a major blind spot. Another one is pricing, just playing around with different price points. But you need some sort of a testing and sensitivity and forecasting to understand, like, is the price point right? Shouldn't I maybe stretch it one way or the other? So commercial is just lacking, and people go into business not understanding what the fundamentals of the commercial model is, and they lose a lot of money. But it never would have worked in the first place. And that is a reality, and there's major setbacks, and a lot of companies just don't have that in place.
So obviously there are these certain rhythms and these things that you need to put in place that needs to happen on a regular basis, and that's probably what you're talking about when you're talking about cadence, which is the fourth C.
I know we've got a friend that runs a lot. So cadence, if you look at your watch, then you'll see there's some sort of a cadence score, how many steps per minute.
Yes. And so that's also quite low, actually. It's really low, and
that's a fascinating one, because I thought that we would see in general quite a high cadence.
Yeah.
But the thing why it's low is because we're working with scale-ups here. These companies, a company that's growing at 10% per year, it's got its rhythms in place. But a company that's growing at doubling every year, everything breaks. Everything breaks. And finance is definitely not a function. It's a back office function. It's not something that you'll fix first. So those rhythms are broken. And you need these rhythms. You need certain weekly rhythms. You need some monthly rhythms. And the difference between being proactive and actually understanding, I'm owning my rhythm, I know what's needed in this season of growth, it makes a massive difference, bottom line. Because all of a sudden you can have the right team members, you can have the right systems in place, and you fall onto your lowest system. Effectively, you'll fall through all good people, and when you get busy, what'll catch you, the net that'll catch you is your structure, is this cadence. So that's why we recommend having a compliance calendar, a cadence calendar of monthly meetings, finance meetings, VAT, income tax, AFSs, understanding when these things need to be done, and having that forecasted once again, not historically.
Yeah.
Understanding the roadmap for the next 12 months and building that out, plotting it out, booking those meetings in advance.
I was going to say the word non-negotiable comes to mind. This is happening and this is slotted in and it's in the schedule, and
it's like a professional athlete. There are certain things that you need to put in place in order to stay fit, go to the gym. There are certain things that's non-negotiable. If you drop them, it's not going to change the performance tomorrow, but in a month's time, in a year's time, you'll see it's a different person. And so these little things, it's a long-term thinking as well, building in these structures and rhythms, and you can change it. That's a good thing about it. So you play around with it, you put certain rhythms in place when you will have this meeting, that meeting, and you actually plan for the future.
Yeah. So we'll get into how you guys and where you guys come in for any other business with regards to that. But it takes us to our last one, our lowest performing C, which is capital.
Yes.
And that's at 27%. And you reckon this is the most neglected, and based on the information, it's the most neglected.
Yes. So this was the most shocking one. And I knew it was going to be the least or the lowest score. And the reason for that is founders are in general so busy building their business, being in their business, that they actually forget that it's most probably 90% of the time, it's their most valuable asset. It sounds so obvious. And the first question there is, do you know what your business is worth? That's the first question.
I remember that question.
The score is shockingly low on that. We've rarely seen yeses. Only the guys who are participating in some sort of a raise, capital raise, they're running a Series A, they know what their business is worth. But people in general, on normal SME businesses, really growing in business, they don't know what their business is worth. And this is a valuation point of view, but it's so much more than that. You're spending all your time, you're sacrificing weekends, you're sacrificing family, you're doing other things to build a business, and very few people can tell us what that business is worth.
It's fascinating. It's quite shocking.
It is.
But as we look at this now, because we're looking at these 5 C's and I'm looking at all of these scores, and there's definitely patterns, or there's definitely some sort of conclusion we can make, at least for these South African, let's say these 50 scale ups.
Yes. Yeah, because the statistics here is specifically for our South African region.
Yes.
But it is quite representative of the UK as well. But yeah.
But what can we now deduce from the climate in South Africa after seeing all of these scores?
Yeah, so there's a few things that came out. One, which is, and yes, it is within our ideal customer persona, and a lot of these businesses, they obviously did the 5C diagnostic because they want to grow, and they are in a position that they already have a proof of concept. They've got a business, they've got people, and they want to scale. So they do take the test because they're in that season already. But I was very excited to actually see how many, that the average business wants to 5x in 3 years. That creates a lot of jobs. That creates a lot of GDP to our economy. And there's a lot of creative thinking and things that still need to do. So there's a lot of ancillary services and other things that's going to help them to grow. And that will create a lot of flow and into the wider economy.
Yeah.
So it was great to see how ambitious these founders are. And I think that the tide is turning in South Africa. And we've seen it with the JSE. The stock market has gone up. It had a tremendous year last year. I think it was 40% or something, the growth. But it's also, we can also see some of that positive thinking and just the climate changing for the SMEs.
Yeah.
So we are quite excited as a data point to say that, well, as a business owner in South Africa, this is a good time to be in business. With the right tools, with the right skills, this is a good time. It's much better than the last 10 years, which is absolutely terrible. That's one thing that we're seeing. On the other side, there are low-hanging fruit, certain things. It's like, obviously, the way we framed it, there is a solution at the other side of each question. And that's how we framed it.
Yeah.
And we believe that you can do a few things that's going to already shift the needle. It'll take you from the 45% to the 80%.
Yeah.
And we believe you can do that within 90 days.
Wow.
You can already start changing the trajectory of your, let's call it your finance function, but it's much more than just finance.
Yeah.
It sits in between finance and strategy, to be exact. And you can change that by doing a few things.
Yes, which maybe you want to go into. You don't have to go into it now. But as a business, they've just done the diagnostics test. They've just answered all 20 questions. They see their results. What is the first step? What do you need that person to do after them looking at the reality? What would you say the first step is for any founder or business owner?
Yeah, so there's a story and why we chose questions. And doing these questions is sometimes the best advisor is not the person that gives you the answer. The founder knows the answer, but it's actually, and they don't know the question to the answer. I don't know who said it. I can't recall, but I found that quite profound. Like, we don't know as founders. We might have the answer, but we actually don't know the questions to ask. So the questionnaire, the diagnostic, it helps you to ask the right type of questions for your finance function. That's going to start changing the way you see finances. And we believe it needs to transform or change from a grudge purchase, something that's compliance and just backward looking, into something that can unlock serious value to the shareholder and stakeholder. Now you've changed your paradigm. Now the founder's already seeing there can be so much more to my function, which was just a grudge purchase. And that's the first thing that happens. Now the second thing is, what are the things that I can do today or within the next 90 days to change it? You can retake the score in 90 days. Maybe you've got an in-house team. Maybe you can sit with your financial manager. Maybe you can sit with your CFO. You can invite a friend. You can obviously set up a meeting. But there are probably 4 or 5 things that you can do immediately or that you need to start that will shift all of those into much higher scores. First, you'll need to understand where you're going, what that BHAG is, Big Hairy Audacious Goal, and you'll need to translate that into a financial model. Something that shows how you'll get there in numbers, not just in just, we'll just get there. You'll need to understand how many clients, how many people do I need to take on the journey to get there? Which products am I going to sell? Which markets am I going to get into? And that needs to be translated into quantities and price points. On the flip side, you need to understand the people and the operations, what you'll need in order to get there, the systems, etc. That financial model becomes the bedrock. Out of a good financial model, all of a sudden you can start seeing into the future and you can play around with it, sensitivity. That can translate into cash flow. So then you can build that into, okay, you need to do some changes on that. But the working capital cycle, your CapEx, what does my investment need to look like? All of a sudden you've got a cash flow. Once you've got a cash flow, that can translate into evaluation, a DCF, multiples, understanding what the business is worth today, where it could be in 5 years. So one thing almost leads to the other. Then you've got that. Now you realize, but in order to maintain this, in order to get this, I need some rhythms. I need to book some meetings. I probably need to add some people, or I need some sort of a consultant, or I need maybe a fractional finance solution. So then it leads to this cadence, a calendar. We call it like project manage it. And all of a sudden, those are great ingredients that you can put in place in the first 90 days that'll take you from X to Y.
That's brilliant. I hope you guys were listening, because that was basically unlocking all the answers that you could have possibly had. Also easier said than done, but we've just looked at the South African data set. We've just seen that and we've seen what the reality is here. But you guys also work with UK companies.
Yes.
So I'd like to know, if we look at their financial readiness scores, how do they compare with ours? And are there like unique cultural differences and issues and problems that you've seen are very prevalent here that are not there? How do we do a basic comparison of the two different?
There's a few key things that we already saw, and we obviously don't have as much experience in the UK as our South African side, because we started here, but we have been operating in the UK for the last 4 years, and it does give us good ideas and good insights into that market and where it is. So one key thing is the average entrepreneur in the UK is about 60 years old. The baby boomers are still sitting with a lot of the businesses. They are not tech savvy. They have not necessarily implemented the cloud accounting software, the certain things, AI, for instance, that could really improve and make their business a lot more profitable. They're very traditional in the way they do things, and there's a lot of these companies, and there are a lot of consultants that is trying to assist them to sell their business. There's also no succession planning. So these businesses aren't necessarily getting to the next generation. So there's all of these businesses. They've got amazing businesses. They understand their customer, they understand the operations, but it's not sellable. So in the UK specifically, there's an investment readiness journey that these clients need to go on. The good thing is you can literally use the 5C diagnostic. We've tweaked some of the questions for our UK audience that makes sense in terms of the jurisdiction that they're in, especially on compliance. But the need for investment readiness, understanding value today and how you can grow with them to convert their existing business into something that's sellable, that is a massive value proposition in the UK specifically. That's the first thing. It's different to South Africa. South Africa, there's a lot of young people, entrepreneurs building businesses. In the UK, it's a different generation. You need to know how to work with them. They're very trust-oriented. You need somebody on the ground, that side, that has that long trusted relationship, and we can assist them. So we love working, collaborating with partners in the UK to work on clients, not trying to think that we'll get them directly, because it's deep trust. That's one thing. On the other side, because of the age gap, the adoption to technology is different. In South Africa, it's very easy to convert somebody, to change them onto Xero or a different cloud accounting software and then implement all these fancy tools. In the UK, it's completely different. This owner wants to see it in his specific way. Now, the good thing is AI actually allows you to communicate and to articulate it in a way that founder resonates with. If he wants to see his spreadsheet in Excel and he wants to get it every Monday, 8 o'clock on his desk, print it out, then give it to him in that format. Because ultimately, he's the founder, he's the business owner, and he wants to see it in a way. Back end, you can change certain things, but just make sure that when it gets to the client, you need to talk his language, and you need to be able to resonate with that. We made a lot of mistakes trying to force certain things, and ultimately, you're losing the relationship, which is so much more valuable than your solution. It's not about shoving down a product down somebody. You need to solve their problem.
You mentioned speaking their language and
Yes.
knowing how does someone like you, how does your business go about understanding other people's language, even if it's in other industries or other sectors? How do you understand someone's language, and how do you talk their language?
In one way, I think it's similar to what I mentioned before, is going in and just asking a lot of questions. Not necessarily dictating and saying this is what you have to do. Really, really understanding their industry, the dynamics between the founders or shareholders or partners. What is actually purpose for them? Where do they want to be in the next 5 years? And a lot of the questions, it starts off with that maybe their big, hairy, audacious goal. Maybe this person just wants to retire and wants to have something that sets them up for their next 20, 30 years. Yeah. So to really understand their need and it's not just when we engage with clients, we'll need to really ask a lot of questions on the customer side to understand their need and not necessarily just come up with a solution that we think can work. There is a second side to that, is once you understand that and it fits the narrative of what we are seeing, then effectively, like the general practitioner, a doctor, we're not a pharmacist that just says, Ross, what do you want today? Do you want, I'd like Panadus. And okay, over the shelf, and I just give you over the counter, I just give you what you need. It's actually, no, we need to do the diagnostic because the founder doesn't know the questions. So we need to ask those questions, and then you need to match it in terms of their reality and what we can do for them. Yeah. But you cannot shove something down their throat. And it's especially not in the UK. In the US, a lot more open to new ideas, new things, a lot more. There's also an older generation of business owners, but the ones that we've worked with is quite advanced in the way they see things. But if you mess up, you're out.
I get that. So if we have to look forward, let's forecast, let's project, let's look at the landscape across everywhere that you guys are working, UK, South Africa. What does the role of an AI or fractional finance, what do you foresee it playing in our current climate? What do you foresee in the next 5 to 10 years your guys' role being?
Yes. So there's already if we look at, so let's assume we're in the consulting business, which we are. We like to see ourselves as partners to a business, but there's some sort of a service level agreement that we've got with our clients, or there's a project and then a service level agreement. The biggest companies today, McKinsey, the likes, they've already got a team of agents, AI agents, and people working alongside one another. They've actually already changed their business model that is no longer a pyramid business model where it's the partner, a few senior managers, junior managers, a lot of junior people that work 24/7 and that bill per hour in order to get the job done. This model has been shattered with AI. All of a sudden, you're actually looking at more of a diamond structure. And why the diamond? There's still contact and relationships that's really important. So you've got your maybe strategic contact point at the top. That might be a partner. Then you've got managers, or in our case, fractional CFOs that really understands the business. They spend time on their premises, understanding the manufacturing, if it's in the operations and how it works, so that when they start providing, giving insights, it's not just, oh, I've seen this, I've pulled a report out of zero, and I don't understand how that translates back into the operations and what you need to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So this middle layer of highly qualified people that can interact with AI and junior people in order to present something and to help them to diagnose and to foresee and to come up with a strategy of like, what do we need to do today? Like, this data shows us one thing. Okay, so what are we going to do about it? So this layer is super important. And this is key in the relationship side of this layer, but also their wisdom and their knowledge is really important. And then you've got a smaller base at the bottom because AI has effectively taken over the other two little triangles. So you've still got a team of internal staff that can really run the admin, keep everything. This is almost like the cadence component. Like, you need those people as well, but they'll be less because they'll be able to utilize AI as well. So that's how we foresee it. And like I said, the second thing is you probably can no longer charge per hour, because I can use a voice note and I can convert a voice note into a financial model or into a pricing model. And that might take me 10 to 20 minutes. But you'll need a deep understanding of how it works, the client, and then what decisions can you make off that data. But no longer can I say, oh, it's going to take me 20 or 50 or 100 hours. It's just not true. So the business model needs to change into a value-based pricing. And what we say, that's deliverable-based. And that's what we do today. So you need to understand what you are delivering, why you're delivering that component, product, how does it change and unlock value to the client, and that needs to be agreed upon, not necessarily just the amount of hours. It's literally a bad cycle. If I, as a junior, if I'm spending more hours and I'm going to make more money for my company, am I going to use AI? Am I going to use methods that's going to reduce my time? Probably not. I won't be incentivized to do it. I'll lose money. But this is not taking our industry forward. The bigger guys are already doing this, the likes of a Deloitte, the likes of a McKinsey, and us as maybe innovative, smaller firms also need to do this. And we need to be at the forefront because it will disrupt the industry.
That's how I see you guys. I see you guys as pioneers and as innovators for this space. So you don't have any negative or any worries when it comes to AI, because it's obviously rapidly expanding it's moving very, very quickly.
It does move very quickly. I do think that in terms of like GDPR compliance, like data protection, there is concerns and you need to be vigilant there. So to use maybe like a sandbox environment to test certain things, that is a good approach, and not to use your client data, and there can be data leaks, etc., on some of the things that you're testing. But to not have that is even worse. I think it's an existential threat to any consultancy and services business, especially SaaS. There's a lot of you can see on the stock market, they're already pricing in all the technology and the advances into a lot of the prices. So it is an existential threat, but I think it's also the greatest opportunity if you are innovative and if you really want to unlock value to your client.
Yeah. This has been extremely insightful. Even to someone like me that knows virtually nothing about any of the topics that we've discussed, it's been extremely insightful and it's been very, very valuable. So I want to sort of conclude. I want to give you a chance to speak to a young businessman, an aspiring entrepreneur, a young woman out there that is a founder. And if there was one piece of advice or one piece of mantra that you've recently incorporated into your living,
yes,
what would you leave? What do you want to leave with them today?
So these two things will tie in. The one is we've actually got a word for the year for us as a company, and it's simplicity. It sounds counterintuitive because we're talking about scale. We're talking about this, but we've got a saying that you need to simplify in order to scale. And you actually need to say no to a lot of things so that you can say yes to the thing that you're called to do, so that you can focus and have that. So I recently did a masterclass on the power of focus, but it speaks about simplicity. It speaks about understanding which part of your business you need to grow and scale and not trying to grow everything. So we've had various times in our journey where I've lost business partners through burnout, and it's a reality in business today. But we said yes to almost everything. And normally that is the case for a startup, a company starting out. You're just saying yes to everything. But I believe if you really want to scale your business, you'll need to say no to most of the things. And you really need to identify that one single thing, single product, single market where you can, even if it's a little pond, but try and be the leader within that little pond that you're in. And then there's a domino effect that happens. From that, you can go to the next one. This is Capitec's way. This is how they grew. They started with one niche. And this is one thing I'll leave to founders. How to describe it in another way is every time you're making an investment in a new product, in a new market, even just adding slight complexity, it creates this J curve. The business literally goes into a slump. All of a sudden, you don't have money going through the business because you're spending it on research and development, business development. That costs more money, more marketing, and it's not giving you a return. So as a business owner, founder, you need to be very, very clear in terms of what you're pursuing, and then start getting that first J curve right and avoid going into these multiple J curves. As a creator and as somebody that sees a lot of opportunity, it's the biggest threat. Opening up that second business, that third business, at the same time, not giving enough focus to the one that can truly scale.
So you guys have already a very successful system going, and you guys have already achieved some really, really remarkable goals. So as a viewer, as an audience member that's watching this now, and they want to find out a little bit more about Francois, a little bit more about Finovate, what is the next step for someone? How can a viewer get in touch with your team, and how can they start building their future sustainably right now?
First step, take the 5C diagnostic. That'll give you a good idea of your business, where it is at, and even just the questions that get asked. It's going to help you to think differently. After you've taken the test, you will receive the report and you can look into it. If you want to, you can set up a call and there will be a link and a prompt on the 5C diagnostic. It'll take you to our website. You can set up a call with us. We do 2 calls. There'll be a discovery call, which will probably be 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how it flows. And we will go through that 5C diagnostic with you. We'll already give you nuggets and insights into certain things that you can apply into your business. Second meeting is normally a technical meeting. They will go into specifics if you resonate with the way we do things and you would want us to become your fractional finance partner. In that meeting, we will have a smart sheet where we already project plan the 4 to 5 things that you need to do in the next 90 days. I'm saying you need to do, but obviously we'll be able to assist you with that, and we'll be able to do that for you, to take you from your, let's assume 45% to your 80% within that 90 days. It's a project, it's 100% money back guarantee, and we break it up into, fundamentally, it would probably be 4 or 5 things. If you've got it in place, we'll switch it up a little bit, but we'll do that financial model, looking into your business, understanding the groundworks, everything is it's like a due diligence that gets done up front. Then that data gets used in the financial model so that you've got something for the next 3 to 5 years that you can look at, that you can change sensitivity. It shows resource plan, it shows unit economics. It breaks your business up into the different business units. Some of them you might have to close down. Some of them we want to scale. Don't scale the whole business. What components do you need to scale that is sustainable? That gets translated into a cash flow forecast that will play around with you, understand your cycles. Maybe you're manufacturing and you're quite capital intensive. That needs to be sorted out. After that, that gives us a lot of the data to actually do evaluation. We use a tool called Valitico, and you will be scared if you see the valuation because it'll probably be a 60-page document. But there are obviously fundamentals that make sense for you to apply. The valuation will help you to actually identify the drivers that's going to lead you to grow your company in the future. It might be that we'll set up a strategy session with you based on the valuation. If you realize, well, we have not considered these things. We don't have winning moves. We don't have a BHAG that's articulated in a great way that my team can resonate with. There could be a strategy session. And like I mentioned, lastly, on capital or on a compliance and on cadence, we'll ensure that you've got a smart sheet or project planner that already maps out all the different rhythms that you need to have in place, or that we believe you'll need to have in place in order for you to have a sustainable business. Those are the things that we'll do in the first 90 days, and we'll do it on a project basis. We think that if that works well and there's high success in terms of the deliverables, then we start talking about a retainer to actually sustainably help you in the long run. But we believe a 90-day term is long enough, almost like a new employee being onboarded, understanding there's this period where you need to figure out each other. And there is a sense of there's a relationship component that's really important for us. And we think it will be important for you as well. And it gives clear guidelines in terms of what needs to happen in the first 90 days. Anything that we identify there, we'll park it as a project potentially for when we'll enter into a retainer. By that time, you'll have peace of mind, we'll have peace of mind, and we hope it will be a very good and prosperous relationship.
That's amazing. I think as a founder, it's a no-brainer at this point. So if you want your business to be scalable, if you want your business to be sustainable, go check out Finovate. They are your solution. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And it was amazing for me to listen to. It was fascinating to be present and to see the years of expertise and the things that you've built up. It is a privilege to know you. It's a privilege to be mentored by you. And I'm hoping that you guys back home will also position yourself with people that are as informed as what Francois is. And I hope that you guys can also see that ambition alone isn't enough. Ambition is not wrong. But without the structures in place, without the frameworks in place, you can have all the enthusiasm and all the energy in the world, but you're not going to figure out and you're not going to get to your big, hairy, audacious goal. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you guys soon again. Take care.
Thank you.